And finally, invest boldly, wisely, and sufficiently. As I say, people run a mile when they are confronted with that requirement. I don't think we will see the change that needs to be in fundraising unless our organizations invest more in the customer experience, the donor experience. So, I want to focus a little bit on investment. I know this sounds as if it's terribly boring, but again, I think here you could make a major transformation in your organization. Project number 20 focused on investment, but this came up again and again in all the areas of fundraising. A lack of investment or an unwillingness to take risks or a shortage of investment. And we find, the Commission concluded, and much of what I'm telling you now is not just based on my opinion, it's the Commission's opinion. And I don't always agree with some of the Commission's findings, but this is one of them. Investment is still too often an unwelcome word in fundraising. We need to change that to ensure that causes invest prudently and sufficiently so that they can do their fundraising properly. And obviously, there's a huge amount of understanding that has to go into what is prudent and what is sufficient. So I want to share with you, okay. Oh yeah, so this is the dilemma. Why do fundraising-dependent organizations, in my country, generally, charities are required to keep a certain amount of money in reserve. And those reserves are almost invariably invested in stocks, shares, and bonds in the markets, where the returns over the last 10 years or so have not been very good, really not been very good at all. Why do people invest their reserves in stock, shares, and bonds without properly investing in donor relationship development? Well, that's a grand thing to say, but what's the evidence for that? Well, we tried to quantify it. The difficulty is getting absolutely accurate returns over a 10-year period, but this is talking about the amount of money that's invested in fundraising over the time. So an axis, the bottom horizontal axis is over 10 years. And this is a chart that was devised by Project 20 to illustrate how fundraising investment works. And this bit is where money leaves our bank account. This is actual investment. Our income is negative. And it takes about 18 months to recover that investment. This is a simplified chart. The cash flow reality is somewhat different from that. But what happens is that sometimes we have to spend money to encourage a person to make their first donation. I don't know of anybody who's consistently able to recruit new donors in volume at a profit. Used to be, in my early days, that was not unusual, but it's very unusual now. Generally speaking, we have, like most businesses, we have to spend money to acquire customers. We then raise money as long as they stay supporters. So Zenka's emphasis on retention, why are we spending more on acquisition than retention? It doesn't make any sense at all. Value and ROI increase over time as long as people stay with us. And they increase quite considerably. How well we treat people is the most important factor in how long they stay. Now, I realize that in the Netherlands, the legacy income may be somewhat different. But in the UK, we get a third of all of our voluntary contributions in the shape of legacies. And real value in this chart comes over time, and it's most demonstrable when you see the effect that legacy income has, because the more donors you have over the longer time that you have them, the more legacy income you will get. And that's what takes the return on investment for donor relationship development into a different stratosphere. if you compare stocks and bonds, that's the kind of return you're likely to get. It's a factor of 3 to 4 times. Returns of investment consistently over time showed that they were getting over 30% return on investment long-term from their investment in fundraising. Stocks, as we're constantly told, can go down in value as well as up. So why is it that our organizations are obsessed with not investing in fundraising and keep their reserves, which are surely to guarantee the long-term future of their organization, keep their reserves in stocks and shares? I just think it's a question that our sector needs to be asking a little bit more vigorously than it has done, because we won't achieve the revolution that we need unless we're prepared to invest more.